Hi all, my name is Davis and welcome back to my YouTube channel where we talk about all things tech, and today is very exciting because I've just unboxed my iPhone 16 Pro Max and I'm in the process of setting it up, and I'd just like to talk about my first impressions of it and how it compares to my old 15 Pro Max model that I've been using over the past year. And we should also talk about, I think, about whether or not you should consider upgrading. And this video is sponsored by... Do you want the feel of a naked phone, but want the peace of mind of using protection? Well, me too, and the Arc Pulse case has been my perfect solution to this problem over the past year. This is the longest period of time that I have used a single case on my phone, because where a normal case would be on its last legs by now, since the Arc Pulse is made entirely of aluminium, while it is very light, structurally it is still holding up perfectly and actually looking better with use. Like a stainless steel watch or even the back of an old iPod, with use, this case actually starts to look better. As you can see on this gold example, you can see the patina begin to develop, uncovering some of that gorgeous silver underneath, giving it a really unique look. Okay, I hear what you're saying. You're concerned about drop protection because the phone is so exposed. But unless you are really clumsy and run over your phone regularly with your car, there is no need to be concerned, because I'm the sort of person who likes to drop their phone about 20 times a day, and my phone after a year looks fine. The aluminium frame and the rubber backing absorbs impacts with aplomb, and all of the main drop zones, including the corners and camera hump, are completely covered. And also, if you are the sort of person who likes to switch phone cases often, this is not a concern either, as the Pulse is held on with just friction. To take the case off, all you have to do is pull on the case, and with some force, it comes off for easy cleaning. If you check the Arc Pulse out using my link, you can save 10% off your case, and you can finally enjoy a case that allows you to have that lovely, pleasurable naked experience while still having protection. So firstly, let's just talk about the design of the phone, and as you can see, I got the Desert Titanium color, which is actually rather handsome. Unlike some of the rumors which were suggesting that it would look closer to brown, the new gold color looks a little bit like the bronzish blush gold of the iPhone XS. And overall, while I don't love it, I don't really mind it either. What I do mind though is how similar the design is to the 15. Apple really had an opportunity to change things up this year and solve some of the issues that I had with previous models, but clearly they elected not to do so. So on the front of the phones, we can see that there is barely any difference, not that I really expected it anyway. It's a 6.9-inch display this time as opposed to 6.7, and where usually I would be against an increase in size, I do have to be honest and say that it's not really that noticeable. I feel like that the switch from phone to tablet happens when we reach 7 inches, so it will be interesting to see if Apple ever increases the size from here. The bezels are also slightly thinner this year, and if you recall the shrinkage in bezel size from the 14 to 15 Pro models, this is sort of in a similar vein, and while it is quite remarkable in its engineering and it's very impressive, it's only really noticeable when you put it side by side with the old phone. Aside from the size and bezels, which I did just say aren't really noticeable, I have to say that the screen isn't noticeably upgraded in any other way as well. What I really would have liked to have seen though is a change in how the rear cameras are placed, because I still just can't stand how much this phone rocks on a table when you put it down. I mean, that is absolutely ridiculous, and it's just getting worse and worse every year. But the rumor is perhaps that the iPhone Air model will get a Google Pixel style horizontal camera for next year, so fingers crossed for that. So the main visual difference this year is the camera control button, and it's more interesting than you might think. So firstly, I just love how essentially it's freed up the action button to do something else. But secondly, they did do a lot more with this than I could ever have expected them to. So being able to just press it to open the camera is amazing, but it's also expected, and I do have to admit that it feels a lot better ergonomically than I could have hoped for. The iPhone is an incredibly awkward shape for a camera, especially when your thumb just naturally rests on the screen, but somehow they just managed to put the button in the right place for horizontal horizontal shooting, and it even works pretty well single-handed. The button, unfortunately, is quite hard to find by feel alone, as it does sit quite flush to the rest of the body, but I guess you will get used to where it is. And what is a little bit odd about it though is that it is an actual physical clicking button. I mean, it clicks physically, which is sort of at odds with a lot of things that Apple is doing at the moment. But at the same time, it does try to simulate a dual stage shutter button. So you can sort of half press it like you would with a real camera. But the difference here is that at the moment, it isn't a half press to focus, rather it's a half press to select what type of control you want. I guess instead of a physical dial like we would have on a proper camera, we've got this slider thing. So when you half press the button, you can adjust the last setting that you had, which in this case is zoom, and you can also swipe along the capacitive button to select what you want. I would say that it works remarkably well, a lot better than you would think. But what is perhaps more interesting is what happens when you double half press to select another setting. You can choose from things like exposure comp, f-stop for the portrait mode, zoom, specific cameras, styles, and finally tone. Styles and tone especially are very interesting. So styles are an extension of photographic styles that we got last year, and they allow you to select what essentially feel like knockoff Fujifilm film recipes, and you can adjust them accordingly. While this is something that I've been yearning for over the past few years, I'm not too sure from my brief play of it. I haven't been able to recreate any of the film looks that I personally would use, but maybe I would find something in time. This is an area where I feel that Oppo with their Hasselblad looks does a lot better than Apple. So there are some predefined looks, none of which I would say are too exciting, but you can adjust the color and tonal mapping of each one. So yeah, now that brings us on to tonal mapping, and this is without a doubt the most exciting thing about the iPhone 16 phones to me. So we all know how terrible iPhone photos look these days. Computational photography has absolutely destroyed natural looking images and has made this extreme HDR look the norm. This is something that even non-photography minded people have commented about on social media. What Apple has allowed us to do with this particular phone is actually adjust how the tonal mapping looks on the photos that you take. So by default, it looks fairly familiar with a very artificial HDR-y flat look as it tries to bring the shadows and highlights to roughly the same level. But if you somehow like that sort of thing, you can actually make it even worse by turning it up all the way. Or if you are sane, you can just turn it all the way down. And there we go, iPhone photos finally look normal again. This alone makes the iPhone 16 Pro worth it to me. I can finally take nice looking images without having to shoot RAW and forego a few of the niceties that iPhone photography brings you, like live photos, how it doesn't take up much storage space, stuff like that. And so those are my first impressions of the iPhone 16 Pro Max. I'm going to play around with this for a couple of weeks and report back my findings, and I will let you know whether or not the iPhone 16 Pro is worth upgrading to. So far, while this does look like a fairly boring upgrade to me, if the performance, battery life and heat management are as good as we are promised, then this might just be another iPhone 11 Pro or 13 Pro moment where the iPhone is almost perfect for the time. So if you enjoyed this video, please give me a like and subscribe. If you've got any questions about the 16 Pro Max, let me know in the comments below. And until next time, toodaloo.